Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Lucid, and I am joined by Sai.
Hi, I'm Sai, and I'm joining Lucid.
So it's turn 10, and I believe. Oh, nope. There's one flag on flag action, but I believe we're getting close to the start of First Wars here.
Yeah, and met three messages from Pythium, so hopefully we'll get to see what his game plan is. Because that was
Right,
something that I've been excited about for quite a while now.
right, because they have this awake researcher, but they haven't been doing labs and some other things, so they must have something very particular cooked up. Hey Lucid, turn 9. Expansion so far has been middling. Different cap circle combined with an aggressive southern neighbor. Yeah, because Atlantis, while he didn't expand close to like Arethia, he expanded all up in Pythium's business.
Yeah, and I thought that was partially just to get that lake, but it looks like it really was just to establish really aggressive borders.
Right. Have made expansion quite fiddly, but still, we've gotten to an acceptable position. Best of all, attrition has been low. Competences on hold and attack can chop through a lot of indies pretty solidly, though you do need numbers. We still have some provinces we have a shot at, mostly southeast. And that is a very tempting throne down there with our competences map move that's very reachable. As for our neighbors, we have a nap with the Gartha. We'd agreed to buy a province from them, but they have reneged on that deal. Heh, that sounds like Aaron.
Honestly, I haven't known him to renege on deals very often, but more just that he tries to make trades that are slightly to his advantage. And yeah, he was famous for buying thrones from people, especially
Right.
people that are dying.
Yeah, exactly. But if he didn't think he needed to give it up, I would not be surprised at all. Like, Aaron's going to win the game by making trades that are bad for you most often. Because I think you're right. It is that's what I remember too. Like, he would make all these trades with like people buying thrones from them. God, what else would he do? Can't even remember. But
Yeah, but I mean, I just tend to think of him as being someone that does follow through up on his Diplo just because he relies on it so much that he cares a lot about his like reputation and reliability.
yeah, I mean, I don't think he's. I mean, there's a difference here between reneging on a deal
And actually breaking one,
and
yeah.
actually breaking one. Like, there hasn't been like an exchange of goods that he hasn't done his side. But if he's like, oh, I think I can do like not give you this, I'll just do that instead. That doesn't
Right.
surprise me. It moves them into the unreliable category. We've also repurchased a province from Arco. We'll be taking that this turn. Okay. TNG, I think, had a horrendous cap circle. He's very small right now. I don't think he's
It's
very
interesting that he
small.
says that. Yeah, because all the players are very close in size.
Right. He's like a little small, but yeah. We're building a fort on the border, but I'm not 100% sure we will attack. I rate him as a player, and he does look to have plenty of cav around, and we don't have the numbers yet to successfully attack. That's another thing I look at too is like what's your military density score in a way? Like if you have a lot of land but a tremendous amount of army, you're probably going to be a tough target. But if you have like a little bit of land and a lot, and a little bit of army, he might be like, that's maybe like a really easy target. But a little bit of land and a big army, like that's still a tough target.
Yeah, it depends on research more than anything else, and also a little bit on build. So like a TNG that went for a full scales build might actually be very susceptible to a research rush, where like you hit him with, enough skeletons and all vapors and then win off of that. Against a build that relies more on sacreds like this TNG has, though, is going to be a little bit more, just a little bit harder for that to work against. And those sorts of timing pushes can also be dangerous just into mass archers in general.
Right. I mean, archers and cav are both categories of units which are generally good behind PD dumps as well. So that's something to worry about. Because you can basically have PD tie up a core of an army in the middle while your cav is running like really hard on the flanks, and that can be tough to deal with. And then archers, you can just shoot them while they're killing your PD, and then you run in.
Yeah, and TNG archers in particular are very good at being deployed like at the very front so that they have a chance to actually shoot wizards.
Right. To our south, Atlantis looks a lot more attackable. I've seen his god, an awake expanding Ghost King, And I've seen his Bless, lots of poison resistance. However, we took a research-focused build precisely to give us early wiggle room to nail the big benefits of Enchantment 5, but then to quickly alternate research priorities. So right now it's a toss-up. Elsewhere in the game, I know that Micklin has managed to nap all his neighbors. That's crazy. Absolute cowards.
I guess everyone who's commented on Micklin outside of Micklin's neighbors has pointed out that Micklin is like a big scaling threat. So it's someone who people generally want to rush early, not because Micklin is necessarily weak early on, especially if they've taken a massive bless, but just because they get so much more dangerous as the game goes on.
Yeah. And it is tough when like your neighbors, like very like other people in the game are talking about putting you down who don't neighbor you to omniscience like this. Like that's the kind of, I mean, every single game late age Micklin gets coalition. It's just ridiculous.
I mean, it probably deserves it. If Micklin
Yeah.
is allowed to get to the late game, it really can take on multiple other nations. No problem.
I'm not really sure if they probably have like a more solid, maybe, or more obvious mid game than Zabalba, just because like they have scaling sacred productions out of forts. But I feel like in the late game, I feel like Zabalba might even be the better nation. So I'm not 100% sure on threat triage there.
I actually do agree that in the super late game, Cheval was actually much stronger. Mostly just because of their mobility, because they have so many flying death mages, they can actually just
Yeah.
cruise around with stacks of Aussies. But I think that the thing that's scary about Micklin is basically that they can snowball. That like if Micklin ever does win a war, then they can easily win wars 2 and then 3 in rapid succession because they don't really lose momentum. Because as you'd said, they have that scaling sacred production. So
Yeah.
they kind of naturally transition from the Jaguars or Eagles into Ocelotls into just mass blood nonsense.
Yeah.
And all of that keeps getting more threatening as the game goes on. Whereas Shabalba kind of needs to actually hit research timings and be able to take advantage of them in order to win any of its wars.
Yeah. Micklin can probably keep the gas pedal down a lot longer. Zabalba probably needs, like a war and then maybe like turtle a little bit and like build up. So
Yeah, I wouldn't even say that Shabalba can't like go from war to war so much as when they're fighting, they need to be very conscientious about what their magic is and what their opponent can do. It's just a lot easier to play Micklin, and because it's so much stronger early, it tends to get to like a bigger size out the gate, which means that like at the same size on turn like 50 or whatever, then Shabalba's probably going to be stronger, but there's no reason to expect Shabalba to be the same size as a Micklin at that point.
okay. Well, pretty much all the games I see, late age Micklin gets eliminated, so I would expect them to be bigger than Micklin.
Yeah, if people are conscientious about like they're like, oh, this nation's really strong, we need to go kill them, then that can definitely take them out. And there's only a couple nations like Lemuria that can actually survive just, being attacked on sight from all their neighbors.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a message from Ulm now. Gicello here, forwarding 118 and 58, negotiated not to bump TNC at 95, since he messaged he was heading there this turn. With a notional border agreement but no non-aggression pact, it was unclear to us how TNC would reach 95 from his cap. He has 16 map move and mountain survival sacreds, or 18 map move cav. That requires 18 map move and 22 map move respectively by my math, and about 20 crossbows that definitely can't reach. Maybe an army hiding from us in his northeast. Consolidating to take Indy Cav southwest of the cap. Then final decision to be made about war target from here, positioned nicely to pivot either way.
So that was the province that
Arco
they
had
were
taken it.
buying. Yeah,
Right.
that they were buying from Arco. So they don't need like a very serious party to go grab it. They just need to be able to beat whatever minimal PD Arco left.
Right. Okay, message from Micklin. Expansion is still going well, apart from losing our profit and that expansion party that routed due to the 360 no scope crossmen. Don't know exactly what that means. With 1,000.
You never heard of 360-degree no scope? Like where
No,
you spin around and shoot. Okay, it's a very old first-person shooter meme where you spin around and then shoot someone
that's
with a
funny.
sniper rifle without using the scope.
Okay, that's really funny. With 1,200 gold per turn, and upkeep being under 100 gold per turn, we can just afford our first Rain King. Slow to recruit, cap only, who will be key in our first war to divine bless all the jaguars we will bring. We also started pinging thrones around us, and luckily we saw Vedheim ping the throne we border, so we now know the indie defenses of 3 out of 4 border thrones. Oh man, this Micklin's dreaming real big about getting all these thrones. I think all his neighbors are still thinking about killing him.
All of his neighbors have naps with him, right?
Yeah, but I think we've heard messages from several of them about actually killing him.
I think that everyone who was messaging about killing Micklin was not his neighbors. It was other folks.
Okay, we'll have to. I think there were some messages about it, but okay. Well, you might be right.
People are saying that they expected.
He definitely has naps, but having naps with somebody is different than them like also planning on picking a second, like a different first war target. But you might be right. The problem is I've looked ahead at some of these turns, so it's hard for me to be 100% unbiased.
Fair.
All of them seem pretty easy, so we'll probably go for the throne at 123 first, the big farm on our border with Sabalba and Vedheim. Interesting to note, the throne at 184, Cave Throne on our border with Gath, seems to have a site that causes horror marks. 2 of the mages and a good chunk of troops there have a horror mark already. It could have been the Shattered Throne, because that causes horror marks, but that's a level 3 throne, which we don't have. Yeah, it's probably Veil of Infinite Horror is my guess.
Yeah.
And that's a shitty site.
It's the most common site that causes horror marks, but there's actually quite a few that can horror mark. Most of them are just pretty rare.
Right.
It could be something cool, though.
Could be. We'll be done with taking our land provinces in 2 turns, and we should have lakes taken in 4 to 6 turns. Both lakes will get a fort, so we can start recruiting 1 or 2 H2s from there. Zabalba running around with 5 Aussies was surprising. It means he either rushed Blood 4 and hit it by turn 6-7 to get that many Aussies summoned, 2 casts to add up to an expansion army, or got one of his national heroes early that can summon Aussies. I wonder how soon I'll hear my neighbors fear-mongering about how scary Zabalba is. Ooh, if only he knew.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was...
We haven't gotten that's the first message we've gotten about Zabalba.
But he was right about the hero.
Yeah.
So he found that out.
That's props to him. I wouldn't have figured that out, I don't think. Because I don't actually... Yeah, I don't think I've ever played Late Age Zabalba, and I've never gotten that hero, therefore, so... Message from Micklin. I hope Zib is scary. They are rage, brutal, and without mercy. But we will be worse. Oh, gosh.
That seems like it has to be a reference, but I don't know it.
I think this is a Dune reference. I think it's from the movie... I forget the guy's name, but he's like, they are without mercy or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, the Sardaukar. Okay.
Yeah. All right, message from Joman. Free Fort in 236. Was hoping to assassinate the throne in 257, but the stuff is full of necromancers, and those 4 ninjas are just gonna turn around and try to find something else to spend their time on. Yeah. There's maybe a small chance he's shuriken one, but that's not dice I'd want to roll.
Yeah, death mages are very good against assassins.
And from Gath, another indie high roll just happened last turn, with 8 heavy cav on a province that reported 20 for 7 turns, and never showed a sprite cav, which apparently doesn't matter at all. Yeah, the sprite, whether it shows up as sprites is... I don't know any of the math there. Just don't.
So it's basically... Yeah, it's basically a unit density thing, where like if most of the units are 1 unit type, then it's going to show... it's less likely to show other things in the province. So if there's like a mix, then like the amount that it shows for each one is supposed to give you like a little bit of an eyeball ratio for like what the composition is. So basically he's saying that from what he saw, the roll for what that province had reported like a relatively small number of heavy
infantry or something. No, I think it's right, no sprites. I don't trust the ratio reporting at all very much, but you're right. It does give you some information.
Yeah. But so he basically just, well, it's more just that it's RNG. Similar to like how scouting reports can give variable numbers. Right. So in this case, the RNG made him think that there were only like 2 or 4 heavy cavalry there, and there were actually 8. Yeah.
It seems that out of the 5 heavy cav provinces we have in our neighborhood, the lowest amount is 7, the highest is 14. Also, 17 Pegasi, with Astral 2 Air 1 Sorceress, Cavemen, Zonts, and Panic Ritter knows how many Jade Maidens that are actually the worst.
Yeah, those guys are high defense.
Yeah. This expansion is outrageously slow. We should finish it in 3 turns, though, except Jade's probably. The game just mocks us with making a scout ping everything. Okay.
Yeah, I'd commented on that, I think, at the end of last episode, that Gath really did just get harder indies than the other players, on average.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably right. But they did take it's also combined with they took a pretty, not a very fast out of the gate build.
Yeah, Scales Gath just doesn't expand as well as a Blessed build will.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I think that's to be expected.
All right, so Marignon expands here. Well, this is kind of interesting. So this is, in some ways, this looks like overkill.
But it's really not.
It's really not. You really don't want to mess around with this, and you need. This is the thing. They're starting to finally get critical mass at crossbows to do crossbow expansion, and you can see just how many they need. This isn't even a terribly hard province for late age, but you really do need about 60 crossbows.
Yeah, I think that it's decently hard actually with that many heavy cap. The thing that I don't want to say is like annoying, but I'm surprised that he hasn't forward deployed the last Conquistador yet.
Right. Yeah, it looks like he got a pretty big dice roll on his retinue units this turn too.
Well, some of those are actual heavy crossbows. Like he does, the hero can also summon them.
Oh, okay.
So he had been doing that when he first got the hero. So a couple of those are like real units, and you can see in the army
actually. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if I can't. Yeah, maybe that's more than. Yeah, maybe these are all true heavy crossbows, and then in addition there were the retinue units. So
yeah.
Unfortunately, he got attacked by indies here, and it looks like they killed a chart maker he had site searching, which honestly, a little lazy. Not scripting your site searchers to retreat. But that's annoying. Fortunately, this
might have been there to build a lab, actually.
Oh yeah, that's possible.
Since it's an Amazon province, you can recruit the crystal zones without building a fort, so I'm guessing that's what that chart maker was doing.
Yeah.
Still should have been scripted to retreat if you don't have any other defense there, especially with misfortune and turmoil scales.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Man,
luckily barbarians are
too.
Oh yeah, we had seen the demon possession one, right. And we talked about that a little bit last turn. But the mysterious cult is the horror cult. Yeah. So the interesting thing about the horror cult, it is one of very few events that's contagious. That is, it can actually spread into neighboring provinces. It can't spread into provinces that no one owns. So like the indie provinces can't get that. But Marignon's far, and now I don't think it can go to his cap either. But it can go to that other farm, and it could go to Pangea's territory.
Yeah. And there's a way, I think, at the beginning, if you get your Dominion up to 6, you can get rid of it. And it never like completely goes away, but it's in like a mostly dormant phase that isn't going to affect you much.
No, it goes away completely if you get the like your Dominion has cleared the thingy, then you're good. It's gone.
Okay. But okay, maybe that's it. So maybe it goes away completely if you get it at the beginning, but once it's established, I don't think you can get it to go away at all. You can just contain it.
I believe that the trigger that prevents it from going away is there's a hidden heretic unit. So if you patrol that guy out and get your Dominion up, then you can get it to go away.
Oh, okay. I distinctly remember it not fully going away, but we'll see. But you're probably right. Okay, so they've got a province here they need to get, and they've got basically 2 ways they could take this party. This fort is up here. I don't think we see any. Oh, there's another fort going up here as well. Okay. So it's kind of nice they can sail between all these. You know, it makes it. It's going to make it a little tough for somebody to try to lay siege to.
Yeah, I was actually going to point that out, that he very much established himself around this lake very intentionally, but he can't take that lake. Like, he has no means of going underwater.
Yeah, not yet. I mean, I'm sure it's possible because he does have water mages, right? Like they get.
Yeah, but he doesn't really have anything great that he can actually send to fight underwater. So like you need to get you can't easily thug these guys, right? Like it's prohibitively expensive. So you need to get a higher level water breathing item, which requires water 3. So probably like he's not going to go underwater until he gets either construction 6 or if his pretender can do it.
I think you could play around with this and take like probably have like a special weapon and maybe some base armor and then the water breathing ring and then maybe put gems on them so they're effectively 2 in whatever path they need to cast and then have them like point buff each other and do mist form and
I
then
would
I'll
just do it
stay on
with
the
water
same tile.
elementals.
Oh, do water elementals? Yeah, that could be possible too. But I bet you there's a way to thug them and get underwater or something.
I don't think that you can do it before construction 6 or before level 5 research, I should say.
I bet you I could. I bet you I could. I think I'd need Alt 4 and probably construction too. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
I
I
think
kind
that
of I've done something similar to that with Joman. Master Shugenjas are kind of easier to do it with, I think. So this would be a little more tricky. Like Master
yeah,
Shugenjas, you can just use one, but this one, I have a feeling you'd need an entire tile full of thugs, like three mages.
yeah, Shigenjas just have better pathing for it though, right?
Yeah,
They've got water,
they do.
nature, earth.
Yeah,
So it's pretty easy to make something thuggable with that.
yeah, and it's definitely a lot easier. But you do have interesting. I think if you do use the chart, these guys, the Royal Navigators, you do have kind of interesting things you can do that really do benefit from having 3 guys in a tile, like quickness and mirror image and luck and cheat fate. And like you can have it where it's just going to be like, and body ethereal, obviously. And then underwater, they can do
The ice
water
armor,
reward or
yeah.
whatever it is. That's going to give you 5 defense.
There's one that gives you the damage shield effect.
Right.
Not
And you can
damage
get
shield.
that
The
too. And you
no, it is
start
damage shield. Yeah.
stacking all those together. A lot of those are area effect buffs, not all of them. I could imagine 3 of these guys just tearing up everything that comes in contact with them. So
I just don't see how they kill things fast enough.
we have to give them a weapon. So
Yeah, but if you don't, I guess Frostbrand is con 4.
yeah, I mean that's one way. Yeah, I'd play around with it. I wouldn't be able to tell you off the kit, but I'm pretty sure there's. Well, I had said Alt 4 construction 2. God, you make me want to just pull up a test game and try it out.
Yeah, I think with construction 4, it's doable, but it also yeah, and I guess the gear doesn't go away if your guys don't die.
Right. Anyway, they've got an okay position here. Moving upwards, Gartha. So they had been. Let's see. That Pythium was the one that I believe said they reneged on.
Yeah, that was the first message.
This one.
Python's first message. I mean, yeah.
Okay. He didn't tell us which province, but I'm guessing it was maybe this one or do you
Probably
know?
the forest rather than the swamp. I don't
Yeah.
see Pythium needing a swamp.
Ooh, there's a death site here too. Maybe that's
Oh,
why they
maybe
didn't
that's
want to
what
give it
Pythium
up.
wanted it.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't think there were any Agartha battles this turn. Yeah, no. He's got just this Bard province to get, and any province here, which he's aiming at. He's got a. What is this event, Si? I don't remember it. Oh, this
Oh,
is the
yeah,
adventure follow-up event.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that's basically that he's going to get another attack there, and then he gets like a little bit of treasure and another adventure if he's successful.
right. Now we have heard that he's posturing to go to war with Midgard, and this is a slightly hostile deployment of troops near the border, especially once these guys step into place. But by no means is this like an enormous stack. But we're only on turn 10.
Yeah, I think that it's early enough that if you just start attacking, that you can very easily get a leg up.
Yeah,
Just because, like, when you start attacking, if you're pretty much done expanding and the person that you're fighting isn't, then you can kind of focus on the war. And even if, like, the other person is able to deploy all their units to start fending you off, they're still not getting any bigger.
right. All right, so let's take a look at Midgard and see if they are. What's going? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, in this case, Midgard is basically done expanding, though.
Right. Manages to lose a van here despite breeding 15 of them. Good stuff.
Yeah, it looks like they're getting shot
Ooh.
at because they actually have lower protection than the human spear units.
Yeah. And I think they caught, well, no, probably not. I was thinking they caused some friendly fire when the vans were javelining the enemies near the Huskarls, and the Herdmen. But I think these guys actually got the kills.
Yeah. You can see the 4 kills there. Although on the other hand, some of those kills might be the Phantasms as well, because he's not sending his Van Hersen to melee.
Oh, that's possible. Yeah. That was their only expansion. They still do have 2 more provinces they need to get. Do they have any forts going up?
Well, they have 1 fort finished.
They have one here. Wait, where's the finished one? I'm blind.
It's in the farm next in their cap circle.
Oh, right. Okay, I am blind. Okay, but not labbed yet. They do have a lab over here. Not sure if this was probably from an event. No? Maybe it was
that's
some
very
indies.
odd. Yeah, the fact that they set up a lab in the place that they didn't have a fort and they have not yet, or they didn't time their lab to finish when their fort went up is odd.
Yeah. Okay. Does Midgard, do they get any nature mages? I know that's usually a thing for most of the Heims, is finding, or for most of them,
They get
the Van
they get
lines.
N1 on Gelderman.
Okay. Because sometimes, like if you're playing Vanheim, you usually want to get indie nature mages pretty early to site search. That might be what this lab's about. But yeah, like you said, they can get nature on their Galderman. So okay, so I think that's Midgard, and then for Pangea, ooh, does Pangea have mercs? They do.
Yeah,
3 of the
They've
mercs.
they had 2 different sets of pikemen.
Okay, no losses here. We'll watch that.
Yeah, just a pile of solid units.
They route the first stack, head into the second one. Yeah, I mean, those cataphracts did all the heavy lifting this fight.
Those are just regular crossbows, right? Yeah, he hasn't started using his snipers yet.
Right.
So the Satyr snipers are kind of interesting in that they are actually very expensive for crossbowmen. So like rather than paying 10, you're paying 12, and they also have a really high rec and resource cost.
Yeah.
But they do have higher than normal accuracy. And because they have reinvigoration, they tend to survive battles unafflicted. Not reinvigoration, recuperation. You can actually get them to decent experience stars, which makes them much more accurate than regular crossbows.
Right. The each experience star you get gives you a bonus 1 precision. So yeah. And I think somewhere in the math, like each precision point over 10 counts as 2 in some formula. I don't remember exactly how it works, but big precision bonuses can matter a lot.
Yeah, and with the 40 range on crossbows, it can actually be really valuable. So, like, generally, I would say that, like, getting more crossbows is better than getting more elite crossbows in most cases, but Pangea can actually get some mileage out of its expensive guys.
Okay, they expand down here. This was heavy crossbowmen, just face tanking these heavy cav. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, those heavy crossbows are good units.
Yeah, apparently.
These are actually not as good as the ones that Marignon gets, because Marignon's guys have shields. The heroic ones, I mean.
Yeah.
They're both called heavy crossbows, but they're just different unit types.
Really?
And they're both mercenaries as well.
Okay, cool. So that looks like that worked for them here.
Oh, he has started making the Satyr crossbows in his cap.
Ooh.
Satyr snipers, yeah.
What do you think that indicates in terms of who he's thinking about for his first war? Does that mean crossbows are going to be good against Marignon and against Micklin?
And against Midgard. Yeah, I don't think that it's very telling to say that the fact that he started to recruit them, because literally everyone that he neighbors outside of Erythia, you're going to want those rather than just more melee units.
Right.
The Dryad Hoplites is interesting. To me, the Dryad Hoplites seem less valuable against Marignon. Well, no, Marignon, because Marignon goes with more crossbow heavy stack.
Right,
like for their army composition. Micklin, I mean, Jackal Warriors
have high morale sacreds, so they're not going to be super affected by awe.
Yeah, but they're not 30 morale. So, like, you can get a little bit
on
of
like a king or whatever. Where's the thing?
Yeah, if they get the +2 morale bonus from the Priest King.
Yeah, the +2 morale, and then the
they would get 13.
They're going to be up at what, 15?
It's 13. Yeah, so it would be 15 with the plus experience stars. But I mean, yeah, 15 morale is still something that can fail an all check.
Yeah.
Like it's mostly going to be successful, but not always.
Yeah, and they can also pretty trivially stack like Horn of Valor on these guys, but yeah.
Yeah, it's
If your
not
game
generally
plan is
something that
putting these
McLean.
dryads into melee combat with Micklin, that's going to be bad news.
I think that for their resource cost, it's still worthwhile though.
Okay.
Because like he's definitely res capped if he's using the Satyr snipers, because those guys are, I guess they're pretty expensive in both.
Yeah, and we can see him making the more normal crossbows here. So even archers here, that actually might be the most telling thing.
Well, he also has that barbarian province next to it, and archers are pretty good against them too.
Oh, that's possible. Yeah. But archers means you're usually going after some. I mean, actually, archer's going to be okay again against Marignon because Marignon's running crossbows. Be okay against Jaguar warriors who don't have shields. Not going to be
Not
as great
great
against
against
Midgard.
Einherjar. Yeah, against Einherjar, you really do want the armor piercing.
Yeah. All right. So that tells us he's maybe not thinking about Midgard. Okay. Very cool. But
I
Pangea
do
is
think
looking in a very good position. They must be top of the pack here. Yeah. They're right up there in position 1 this turn, I think, tied with the elves. So
and Erythia, I believe.
was that the other person up there?
So elves are up there, and I believe Erythia is also tied with them.
No.
Oh no, Erythia is one province smaller.
Yep. Okay.
Everyone is so close though. Like even though the chart actually like looks somewhat sizable in
Right.
terms of like the disparity, these are all one province gaps.
Right.
So the only two people who are smaller, like by more than one province, is Marignon, which is two smaller than the next, and then of course Utgard.
Right. So Utgard had a pretty good turn this turn in terms of at least catching up at the bottom of the pack. Let's go over and look at Aretha here. So they have gone underwater or further expanded underwater here using mostly these hoplites, which I know you approve of.
He did lose two of his sacreds. I'm guessing that he's still tanking with them, and because they don't have, oh no, he just has them all in the same formation. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's the only action we have from Erythia this turn.
But he did finish his fort.
Right. I think that might have been finished last episode.
Oh yeah, no, he's upgrading it now, so it must have already been finished.
Right.
He's doing lab and
Another
temple
fort
underwater.
here. Does he have any other forts coming down?
In his lake.
This
Yes,
one.
that one.
So he's going to have 4 forts. Yeah. And making lots of crossbow. I think this just, to me, this advertises war with Atlantis. So,
I mean, again, this is a situation where crossbows are good against kind of everyone except for Xibalba. But I think that he kind of has to fight Atlantis. Like that's almost a given.
yeah. Yeah. That's probably true. I mean, just looking at where the crossbows are. Yeah. Atlantis really needs to switch over to making the shielded heavy high resource dudes now. This right here is a major mistake given that he can see crossbows being spammed. These guys are nice to have a few of or something because you do have like a monster you need to kill.
They're also better at fighting underwater.
Right.
That might be.
Well, you have the spear guys that you were advocating for that are nice underwater as well. That have shields.
Yeah.
So like these guys.
Yeah, so I do like those guys. I think that they're just the most cost effective.
Right.
But the two-hander guys are generally what you want fighting underwater because there's very reduced range stuff. So just having that extra damage actually makes a lot of difference.
Yeah.
I'll also say though, that Erythia does have crossbows that work underwater. They're just very short range,
which is
so
actually kind of
more like javelins. Yeah.
Yeah, the harpoon guns. Yeah. Okay, it looks like this looks like a little Cold War about to start here.
Yeah, I'm surprised that, given that I think it's pretty obvious for both players that this war is inevitable, that they haven't started poking each other. Because you can, take a province with very little commitment,
Right.
especially if the other person didn't leave enough PD. And, any swing is a good swing, right? Because it's gold that they're not getting that's in your pocket just for the turn. So if you're fighting anyways, you may as well do those little raids.
Yeah. I think that's true. There are, I think, like diplomatic exceptions, and that like the second you start jousting with somebody, the more likely it is you get backstabbed. And I think that applies to both players. But
Do you think that the only reason that they haven't started fighting is that they want to secure their other borders first, make sure they're not going to get attacked?
yeah, maybe. I mean, I think one of like I'm always the thing I'm thinking about when I start a war is what turn will the war end on? And if I can wait 2 turns to start a war, but the war is only going to end like 1 turn later than it otherwise would have, so it would be a shorter war. A lot of times I'll do that. So, but you know, that being said, you're right about the resource denial stuff. If you go ahead and start poking them, but I kind of like I really do, depending on how I am, like especially if you're kind of a scales nation, you're gonna have like a really maybe this will be like a bloody war. You're gonna have to really all in. I'd rather do that with all my neighbors having picked their, their wars, or at least I'm not seeing troops on my border before I decide to poke the bear. But
That's fair. It's just in this case, I think that both players see it as inevitable.
yeah, but it wouldn't like it might be that Arethia gets attacked by TNG, right? And then Atlantis actually has agency again, right? Okay, do I stab Arethia? Or maybe do I want to go after somebody else who's like falling apart and dying? So it's like, yeah, it's inevitable right now, but it might not be if, things happen. So,
I mean, if Erythia does get into another war, I don't see a world in which Atlantis doesn't attack them. That's just, it's their best target, basically.
well, I think it depends. Like, Joman's like down and dying. He might be like, okay, I could have a hard war with Erythia, or I can let them expend resources fighting and go take this lake and eat part of Joman.
Yeah,
Which
that's
is
fair. I guess Joman's another good target.
yeah,
Marignon is also a potential target just because they opted into that lake.
right,
But Atlantis or they very much want to get another water system,
right.
just because that's that's going to be where their mages are coming from, and that's also going to determine like where they can deploy on the map.
Yeah. And I think the other thing to just note before we move off Atlantis is we're starting to finally see these like nice high resource units. We were really delayed in seeing this. This is maybe only like the second turn or something we've really seen them in any kind of number. And a lot of that was it took a while to fully clear the cap circle, so especially when you take an awake god, that's like a huge boon on Atlantis is getting your cap circle cleared so you can start, making your really high resource units.
Yeah, and they also never armored up their god, so it was only taking kind of easier provinces for the most part.
Right. Yeah. And either like trading for enchanted scale mail, like somebody's going to be able to make that year 0. And you can try to trade gem types or whatever. You kind of advertise you have an awake Titan-esque god, but that's not really a bad thing to advertise. Like people being like, oh shit, this guy's got an awake Titan.
Yeah, if it's intended to be a deterrent, then you actually want everyone to know about it.
Right. Okay. Pythium. Ooh, they get slammed by barbs here. Andy's pretty active this turn. Otherwise, I don't see any expansions.
Well, they're pretty active amongst the Misfortune nations.
Yes. Yeah, there's Misfortune 2 here. So this barbarian attack was bought and paid for. Pinging.
Luckily, he also has enough units around it that he can very easily retake that province.
Right.
Like, very casually. So he's definitely going to fort that farm.
Yeah, we see... Do we see a commander here? Barbarian chief.
Yeah. The cheapest commander that he could find.
Yes.
35 gold.
I don't see any other forts under construction. So it looks like this might be his first fort. And this one lab
he did make another lab.
Oh, another lab here. Okay. Nice.
And the fort under construction.
And a fort. Okay, so he's probably going to have 2 forts, 1 unforted lab. Where... Do we see Misties here or something? No. It's a little strange.
It popped these.
Oh, it popped these.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that generally I would go for the Misties.
Dudes? I don't remember.
No, they're the guys who can random Earth. So I'm guessing he basically just wants to roll them until he gets Earth 1 for site searching.
Ah, I see. Okay. They can also be Ultra too. Yeah. And they're heretics.
Yeah,
The
generally I prefer the Misties because they're only one commander point, so
right,
they just get your research that much faster. But because he's using the gray ones as his researchers, he's probably going to be doing site searching a little more proactively and buying the more expensive two commander point mages.
right. Okay. Coming up to Tianchi, takes this, no losses, takes this, no losses. And he has we're starting to see the start of the horse apocalypse. Horses in every province. So he is fully turned on production.
He's
And
also started site searching with the Celestial Master, I believe.
yeah, where are we? Where did you see that?
It was either
Oh,
it might
Spirit
have been
Master.
it was in the top right.
Okay.
Oh no, it was
Oh,
a ceremonial
Ceremonial
master.
Master.
That's
Okay.
the
That's the
priest. Never
priest.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he did have this guy, Spirit Master, here. Okay, so he also has his stuff all on this Midgard border. So
Which we knew about. Like that was
right.
kind of
But it's starting, I think, to get to the point where he's like advertising it. I mean, Midgard can't see this, but when you see this on your border, that does start to like slightly advertise that maybe things aren't going to be very friendly. And you still sort of see that on the Olmish border a bit, but
yeah, I thought that he had enough stuff on Midgard's border last turn to launch an attack.
right. Yeah, he probably was thinking about it. I mean, we know he's thinking about war with Midgard or planning on it. I'm sure he thought about attacking the previous turn.
Yeah, it's one of those things basically along the same lines as the Orithia situation, where if you get a head start, then that's just more gold in your pocket.
Right. Though maybe he is waiting for the fort to come up. Nothing like
Oh, yeah, if he knows that that fort's under construction, he might actually just be waiting so that he can take it instead of destroy it. That
right.
actually is very much possible.
Okay. So we're back to Arethia. And I believe that means we'll come over to Ulm. So Ulm, who was supposed to be the first person to finish expansion, is still just wrapping it up now. I will say these players are finishing expansion very quickly for a late age game.
And without awakes to boot. But yeah,
Yeah.
these are all people who practice their expansion.
Yep.
Like for sure.
Except for Utgard.
Except your card.
Yeah. But Utgard would actually be far less out of place in like an average all skills lobby for late age. Like there'll be several players who would be at his size at turn 10.
That's possible, yeah. But I don't know if there would be anyone in quite as severe of a disadvantage just because of how much gold he lost.
Yeah, that's possible. Okay, so just this one expansion here. There's knights here to go after. And it
you
looks
can
like
see
he's
he's
got lance bait here and big ranger squad to deal with it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it looks like he's basically gone all in on ranger production now. Or not all in, I should say, since I assume he's still making his Hawkmeisters.
Yeah.
But he's actually started doing the crossbow spam, which he's not going to be able to do in as huge of a quantity just because of his
Yes, bad scales.
Turmoil 3. Yeah. But it's kind of showing that he recognizes that his thugs aren't going to be enough to actually fight another player. So he's actually making that troop transition.
Yeah, which is really good. For fighting Arco, though, I guess both of them don't have another fort up yet. Does Ulm have a fort close to being finished? There's one here. This one is not going to be very helpful for an Arco war. On one hand, it's nice because it's protected, but the troop logistics are going to take a pretty long while to get to the front. He's got a fort
Depends on
going
what
up
the front
here.
is. If his front is with Shababa, then it's just fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, building
yeah.
your fort to 2 provinces away is totally normal, and that's a large province as well. So it's going to be worthwhile.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just looking at like kind of what I'm doing is I'm sizing up this army and I'm kind of looking at what Arco has. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can kind of see it working because he's getting close to critical mass on crossbows. For a first war, you probably want like 150. He's not far away.
Yeah, the crossbows are going to be pretty good against elephants, but they're not going to be good against those hard companions. Just because the hard companions have great shields, great protection. And because
that said,
Arco's
they're going to be better than a lot of the melee options Ulm is going to have against them. because the Heart Companions have that long weapon for fire shield, and they've got the fire resistance, so they're completely immune to that. And I don't think there's any troop Ulm really wants to make. Like, I don't think you want to make Zweihanders and charge them into Heart Companions. Maybe these guys, the Ghoul Guardians.
Yeah, the Ghoul Guardians would actually do pretty well, but the problem with the Ghoul Guardians is that LA Argo gets Death Mages.
Right.
And those get dust to dusted.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Yeah, this is actually a really bad matchup for this build.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to march these guys into buffed Heart Companions, I don't think. So
I don't know if he has a better option.
I think I'd rather shoot them with crossbows and then hit them with these axes. Rangers. Yeah. So I think I approve of his move, I think. I mean, we can do the math real quick. 11 AP, so it's going to be losing 60% protection for the Heart Companions. And
yeah, it's mostly the Hoplon.
Yeah, so it's going to be 9. They're going to be effectively at like what, 7 protection against the crossbows. So it's going to be like 2 damage a hit. But then you have like I don't exactly remember the parry math, but if they block it with the Hoplon, it's doing 0 damage. So
yeah, it basically makes the projectiles disappear.
Right, but it is still going to be doing reliable chip damage when it gets through. It's just not much. I think I'd still take that.
Yeah, and I guess they're also stealthy, which is nice.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Ulm. Coming up to Xibalba. You get attacked by villains.
One of the weaker indie attacks, so he kind of lucked out there. And that's actually one of the things that I think that people downplay a little bit about luck, is that you can still get bad events, especially when your skills haven't propagated throughout your provinces. But unlike the folks that are running Misfortune, he's not getting like the worst events. He's not getting the heavy barb attacks and so on.
Right, yeah, the casual 80 barbs that decide to camp you early. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so he's expanding to take this. He's got a lot of troops here. It looks like he's mobilizing north. That's usually the easiest way to read where first wars are going to start, is like, towards what border do you have most of your troops at the end of the first year? And this is looking like he's looking at Jomon.
I mean, to be fair, that really is, in his case, just finishing his expansion. And the bats that are in the forests are really just forest recruit bats.
That's true. But, you know, pretty much lots of players this game have been planning to finish expansion in the direction they were going to launch their first war. So
that's fair, yeah. And the other thing is that a fair portion of his border with Jomon is in flight range from his capital. So he can just literally fly secrets directly from his cap onto those 2 provinces, and then deep strike with the army that's in the swamp right now and his forest recruit bats. So he can hit 4 of Jomon's provinces next turn.
Yeah.
Without stealth. And, you know, he could have stealth squads already in place.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Coming up to Jomon, we don't see... He doesn't really have a lot of troops. He's got these guys here.
Yeah, that's a lot of troops.
That's a lot. Only 30 in this whole southern region. Oh, no, he's got these guys too. That's okay. Yeah.
Well, the crossbows are there just because that's a crossbow province. So
I'm just saying, like, how many troops does he have in this kind of core region? If he gets attacked by Xibalba, it looks like he's got like 50 between all this. And he pinged this turn, so he's probably going to move the crossbow. Well, I don't think he can attack this turn, actually.
Yeah, but if you look at where his army is in the northwest, that's probably not going any further north. So I expect that army is going to pull back. So he's not actually going to be really out of position. I mean, he's going to be like a little slow, but his troops aren't like, you know, totally involved somewhere else. They're going to be heading back home.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, if Xibalba were to like attack this turn, he could have 120 troops up here when Jomon has, you know, 50. I mean, these guys are going to be coming back, but yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking about how Xibalba's units aren't really that great early. So if he's taking a first war, he's going to really need to actually get a lot of value out of his mobility. So the Alpha Strike is going to be very important. He'll need to take a lot of ground in order to make sure that when they're, you know, going back and forth over provinces, that is over Jomon's territory. He's also definitely going to need to make use of stealth, and ideally he'll have some magic. in addition to his hero summoned Ocelotls.
Yeah. Yeah. I still feel like there's a few things. One is if Joman is, I don't, we haven't heard from Joman who he's planning on fighting. If Zabalba attacks him, of course, that's going to be decided for him. But Crossbow is not going to be very good against Zabalba. And while these guys are going to be fine, I think I do prefer the Ashigaru.
Yeah, they're cheap, and you can get a lot of them, and they
Yeah.
have a long weapon. So there's a lot of upside. I actually really like the Ashigaru in general, but I actually think Joman in general just actually has pretty decent melee troops.
Yeah, they
Like
do.
compared to what we were looking at when we were talking about Ulm, and like the struggles that he's going to face in order to fight those
Right.
heart companions. I think that Joman would actually have a much easier time in that matchup.
The problem with the Gohamados, I think, is you get like a bunch of shitty bats, and then imagine, these 10 obsidian warriors and these 6 bet Aussies, and they jump on you, and all of a sudden your 20 Gohamatos are now 10, and now it's 10 versus 30, It just with these kind of killing
much easier
sacreds, these guys get, yeah. But if
they're
if
just
those
not
guys
as
jump into
efficient.
60 Ashigaru, it's like, okay, we lost 10 Ashigaru or 20 Ashigaru. We still got 40 left.
Yeah, for the resource cost, just because Shivalva's sacreds are so high damage, you definitely do want the cheaper units.
Yeah. Okay. And then coming up to Arco. Wrapping up expansion over here. He's got these. Arco's been. I mean, he hasn't hardly had any losses in expansion, I don't think.
Yeah, but he was a little bit slow
yeah.
in part because of that, because he basically stacked up so many heart companions in that second expansion party.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, on the one hand, he didn't lose a ton of units, but he had to cede some of the territory that he captured from his long loop around in the north.
Right.
And he's also not as big as I think an Arco could be at this point in the game.
Yeah. And he still has some indies over here to get. So.
Yeah.
And I think
lucky
this
for him,
is his, actually. This too is his. So he actually can have a whole nice little parade down here and get these 3 provinces. Nobody else is going to be able to get this unless Gath comes up and takes this province. So. Or Joman.
Yeah, but yeah, that's basically just Arco being lucky that Utgard didn't expand very well.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
and
man, he just got this. He just got this choke point, right? So like, there's no way for Utgard to get here, except through this choke point or through the throne.
You can also see that he's neighboring Utgard's cap circle. Like he went into what's nominally inside of Utgard's 9 block.
Oh man, I don't even know if I really noticed that. Yeah, Arco is religiously waging a war against Indies. He doesn't care where they are. He's going to go kill them. He does not like gray flags, I tell you what.
Yeah, which is kind of what I was saying, that like he should be even bigger.
Yeah. I wonder if Utgard's going to have anything to say about this. They definitely don't want Garms in. Well, on one hand, the Garms would still one-hit kill these guys. On the other hand, the Garms are definitely going to die every single turn. They're in front of a stack of heart companions. So.
Yeah, I don't think that Utgard has the critical mass of Garms to fend that off. But I also don't think Arco's going to attack him.
Yeah. Okay, and that's done with that column. So now let's actually look at Utgard. Expanded here, didn't lose anything, but it's super easy militia. And then here...
He lost 2 of the humans, so clearly his positioning was better there.
Yeah.
He also has 10 Gamhards, so that kind of can swing the fight very quickly just because they chop through the Indies so fast.
Yeah, they kill 1 unit a turn pretty much. Once they go berserk anyway.
But yeah, I guess this is also not that hard of a province.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. There's a few crossbows in the back taking pot shots, but that's one thing these guys can take pot shots with regen pretty well. Okay, let's see the fort situation, because that's... Okay, there's a fort coming up here. There's a fort coming up here, so 3...
He's not actually going to be that far behind, because he's got that awake researcher.
Right. Really almost any sin can be forgiven if you win your first war. So, we were talking last time, he should look to Vulture. But if he gets 3 forts making Seth Kona and enough Garms to kind of siege down forts and guard commander and whatnot, and he picks the right war, he still could win a first war decidedly. The problem, of course,
Yeah.
is Vedheim.
Yeah, one of the things that I like about Utgard and Sorcerer Nations in general, really, is that when you do win those battles, you tend to win them very decisively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're relying on sorcery to win your war, there's a very good chance, or you're basically not relying on your troops getting in melee and punching things, and so they tend to not die from being in melee and punching things. So it's kind of nice.
And even if the Garms are, like, relatively squishy with only regen, they should still make very solid Evo bait, or arrow catching for that matter.
Yeah. And they can catch arrows all day, as long as there's not like 200 or 300 crossbows,
Yeah, so he can definitely still get some mileage if he spreads them out.
Yeah. Though remains an existential threat for Utgard. Taking this province.
Vedheim is also taking a very scaling build, though. Like, if you look at, all their scales and so
Yeah.
on. So I don't think that Vedheim feels like they're on a timer.
No, I don't think so. And they have the cursed idol coming out in not too long, and they're going to have this library. A little
Yeah,
surprised
it's
they
kinda
haven't
sad that
labbed
they-
this, though. There's a gaija
I
here
think it's
now.
Yeah, I assume it's just a gold thing. They just can't afford it because they do have a lab in their other forest in their cap circle.
Right.
So yeah, it's really just a matter of what they can afford.
But for like research rushing with Vedheim, in my opinion, you want to just like the first thing you do is you lab your forts and start doing hags like the second you
Oh,
can.
sure, yeah.
So let's take a look at their fort situation. I don't think we've done that yet. Okay, there's a fort going up here.
And then on the far side of the forest is, I think,
A fort here. So we've got 2 forts and then a lab. Okay.
Yeah, Vidiheims actually should be they should be able to do pretty well with research between, 3 labs, 2 forts.
Yeah.
Like, they're in a position where I'd say they don't. Well, actually, they haven't taken that library yet. I was going to say, like,
Right.
if they get the library labbed up as well, then they would essentially have 4 foreign recruit options. Although odds are you would probably want to fort that anyways, just to get more sages.
Yeah. But yeah, Vedheim looking pretty good. I mean, we don't see a ton of troops. I think, but we don't know how many are stealthy either. But I mean, so far all we can really see is about I don't know, 40 Rimvedi, some archers here.
Well, we know that he switched over to full Rimvedi production relatively early on in expansion. Basically, once he was out of the worst of summer.
Oh no, he's third lowest on army size though. So I mean, I think goblins only count as 1, but I mean, army graph is scaled by size. So
yeah, it's a little bit deceptive because
Right.
Vedi tend to be basically as good as human units,
Right.
while counting as half basically on them.
Yeah. So if we double it, it's from this line to here. Okay. Yeah, maybe they're okay. But yeah, it doesn't look like I'm not getting like rush vibes from them in any way. Like it doesn't look like they're massing units as quickly as they can. Like they're kind of just making Rimvedi. They're focusing more on forts rather than on like labbing this. We also don't really see like there's some Wolf Brothers or oh no, it's a single Vedi hearse. They're not doing wolves out of their forests. Those are all the kind of indicators you see when somebody's going for like a very aggressive Vedi build where they're planning on running somebody down. This Vedi build looks to be more chill.
Yeah, very infrastructure focused, and that's kind of in line with what the player had said in their first message, that he feels that he as a player is going to do well in the mid game, and that Vedheim is also a nation that he wants to play with like a heavier emphasis on their magic and support stuff rather than just trying to rush someone with the Rimvedi.
Right. Okay. Very cool. And that brings us to Miklin, who expands over here, doesn't lose anything, and they've got some of these rain warriors here. Presumably they're going to come up here and try to take this, although it's hard to say. Yeah, for the fort situation, this thing is up and labbed and templed. And there's another one coming up here.
Yeah, one of the nice things about Micklin's forts is that the first level already has the bonus commander point.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of mages going to be coming out. Only 3 forts. I was kind of thinking maybe that, and I think he's got ambitions of getting another fort coming up here. But this probably is all you can reasonably afford. I mean, there's a lot of forts to be making however many jags a turn out of.
Yeah, from a Jaguar perspective, you generally want to aim for high recruitment point provinces.
Right. So
So
yeah,
like a
he's
179 is
preferring the
probably high value.
non-forests. Yeah, this one he would want, but the problem with this is it'd be a little harder to defend if Gath attacks him.
But he does have a non-aggression pact. So like, yeah.
Yeah.
He is very specifically going for forting his cap circle, though, as you pointed out.
Right. Okay, and I think that's it for Micklin. And then coming up to Gath. Gath, who has had, struggled with really tough indies to fight. I think he had a bounce last turn too. These Gittites didn't like the heavy cav.
Yeah, that was actually the first bounce that we saw, and it was also the first time that we saw any sort of serious casualties. So
Right.
Gath had been slowly and steadily increasing his numbers of Gittites to take these harder provinces, and that one bounce actually did kind of cost him.
So he's starting to make now a lot of these Benjamite slingers. What do you think that indicates? Is that you
Well,
think
they're good
just
against Micklin.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
They're also
Some in
decent
here too.
against. They're good with buffs against like various other targets, but until you actually
Right.
get the buffs for them, they're not amazing.
Right. They're probably
Like,
okay against Joman, who tends to not have shields.
well, you
They have
shouldn't really
enough
think of them as
armor that
slingers.
yeah, okay.
They're more like dual wielders that have a sling.
Yeah. I feel like if you're fighting Micklin, you have a line of these Gittites. I feel like you have the guys empty their sling pouches
Yeah,
and
the
then
slings
run
can
into
actually do
melee.
stuff against Micklin. That's true.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they might not be able to do anything against German. Let's take a look at these Go Hamados.
Yeah, slings are like 8 bludgeoning
Yeah,
damage.
that's not going to do anything.
So against a 17 protection helmet, they're even
Yeah.
against Micklin, like their ideal target, it's like 8 damage against like 5 or 6 protection or something. Like
Yeah. Okay.
even something with wooden warriors largely ignores them.
Garbs also don't. Well, they're going to go berserk with the built-in natural protection, so they'll be okay. Oh,
Yeah,
they have a
13
leather cap. I
protections.
didn't realize that. Okay. Yeah, they'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, Jaguar warriors, even with 7 protection, also a leather cap, like that's still rolling basically with only +1 damage.
Right. Yeah. What happens when they go in the Jaguar form? Do they keep this?
No, they
don't,
have
right?
natural protection though.
Okay. Is Gath pinging this? He is. So I expect Gath to probably move. Can Gath take this? They should. 20 crossbow and 25 light infantry versus this stack.
Yeah, that should be no problem. 20
Yeah.
Gittite soldiers should have no problem with that at all.
Right. Oh, this is another thing. We were talking about Jomid not having enough troops. Well, they've got this Bakamoto province here. That's going to be a nice boon. I don't think I've seen that. It's going to be a nice boon. Maybe they run the Bakamono and the crossbows into this heavy cav this turn. Though it's a lot of heavy cav. Ooh, 23. I wouldn't do that. But
Yeah, 23 heavy cav is a lot to ask for goblins.
yeah.
I love having Bakamono if you're a nation that doesn't have stealthy raiding parties.
Right.
And Joman tends to not get that until they get a little bit of magic. So just having like a gold raiding party that you can try to raid with for only 280 gold is pretty good.
I feel like they're pretty good against bats too, just because of the attack density. Like these really killy bats, like they're going to land. They're only going to kill a couple of these guys, and then you're going to have a lot left over to.
The problem is
punch
that
them.
they're not great against the regular bat troops.
Well, really? I mean,
Well,
these guys
because
are pretty shit. The Zot Warriors?
well, so both of them are very bad units, but the bats are going to have a lot more.
Yeah, that's probably true. But
And,
yeah, I'm not talking about using them alone. I mean, it's like part of a German army. Because he just needs more troops down here.
Yeah, if he's getting swarmed, he can definitely do like use these guys as chaff and like emergency deploy them. But in general, I think that as Jom, just because you don't really have great stealth rating, that the fact that they can serve that role makes them a little bit like Like, you don't want to use them in like a straight up brawl if you don't have to.
Yeah, I think he has to though. If they go to war soon, because he just needs 50 more troops down here. Like, because if the bats all group up, you just need a certain number of units. So, but I feel you. Okay, so that's Gath. Did he finally took this? Oh, this was the province he bounced on the previous turn.
Yeah, and since the heavy cavalry had all routed, the province itself became easier. But he's also left like with this group of only 12 Gittites, and the provinces surrounding this one are still kind of hard. Well, actually, the Zots
The
are
Zots
going
are
to be easy.
easy. Yeah,
Yeah, you can take the Zots, but the cavemen are going to be hard, and the other heavy cav province is going to be hard.
right. And he gets a second lava lake this turn, so he's going to be pretty stoked about that.
Yeah, that's the silver lining there.
Yep. Certainly worth losing some Gittites for that. Okay, and then coming up to Utgard, who we've already done, I believe. So we head over to Agartha. We've already done Agartha as well. So I believe that wraps up this episode.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think we had been expecting to see wars break out this turn on the Midgard front,
right,
but it's looking like we're going to be seeing that next turn instead.
right. Yeah, and it's to me, just to repeat a little bit, it feels a little strange feeling like we're late on war starting when it's only turn 10, and that just goes to show how well expansion went for all these players. Because they
Yeah, turn 10's
practiced.
about when wars should start.
Yeah. So yeah, cool. Tune in next time, everyone. And Sai, thanks for joining me to cast.
Absolutely.
All right, take care.